Well, today, President Trump imposed new tariffs on certain drug companies. Trump says that Americans' reliance on imported, patented pharmaceuticals threatens national security and public health. His plan states most imported, patented drugs and key ingredients will face a 100% tariff, while companies with approved plans to move production to the U.S. will pay a reduced 20% tariff. In Trump's plan, it says generic drugs are excluded, with the goal of strengthening domestic supply chains.
Exactly 1 year after Trump's original Liberation Day, tariffs sent global markets into freefall. The White House signed a new executive order targeting the pharmaceutical industry. The headline number was 100%. For Canada, a country that exported approximately $6.75 billion in pharmaceuticals to the United States last year, the order landed at a moment when Canada-US trade relations were already under severe strain from over a year of tariff conflict. Canada exports pharmaceuticals to the United States across multiple categories. According to research published in JAMA, the United States imports 400 different ready-for-use medications from Canada, 28 of which have no alternative supplier anywhere in the global market. A separate analysis estimated that $3 billion in US pharmaceuticals depend specifically on Canadian manufacturing. Those medications cover a broad range of treatments from antibiotics to mental health drugs. They are not niche products. They are part of the daily supply chain, keeping American patients supplied. The executive order Trump signed on April 2 operates through a tiered tariff structure. Patented drugs and their active pharmaceutical ingredients are subject to a 100% tariff for companies that have not signed what the administration calls most favored nation pricing agreements, deals committing companies to charge the United States no more than comparable wealthy nations pay for the same medicines. Companies that have already signed these agreements or are actively building US manufacturing facilities receive either a 0% rate or a transitional 20% tariff. The full 100% rate kicks in after 120 days for large pharmaceutical companies and 180 days for smaller ones. Trump cited national security as the legal foundation for the order, invoking Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, the same mechanism previously used to justify tariffs on steel, aluminum, and copper. Executive order states that pharmaceutical imports are being imported into the United States in such quantities and under such circumstances as to threaten to impair our national security. Canada has no specific exemption written into the new order. The European Union, Japan, South Korea, and Switzerland face a 15% pharmaceutical tariff matching previously agreed rates. The United Kingdom secured a separate deal for a 10% rate, with the order noting it would reduce to 0 under future agreements. Canada's position in the tariff structure is not defined as favorably as those allies, leaving Canadian pharmaceutical exporters directly exposed to the full escalation pathway if they do not secure deals within the grace periods. The Manitoba pharmaceutical sector illustrates what is at stake provincially. According to Andrea Ladouceur, president of the Bioscience Association of Manitoba, the pharmaceutical industry accounts for between 30 and 35% of all medicine manufactured in Canada, 7% of Manitoba's GDP, and approximately 14,000 jobs in the province. The pharmaceutical industry is the cornerstone of the Manitoba economy, said Ladouceur. If being in Canada becomes unaffordable for them, these companies are connected to the global market, and moving out of Canada is not off the table. The national jobs picture reinforces the concern. According to Canadian government data, the manufacturing portion of Canada's pharmaceutical industry has employed an average of 35,000 people since 2019. Canada represents 2% of global pharmaceutical market share. These are not negligible figures, and the sector's exposure to US market access decisions is structural. Canadian pharmaceutical producers have historically depended on the American market as their primary export destination. Jim Keon, president of the Canadian Generic Pharmaceutical Association, told CTV News that while Canada is not the primary target of the pharmaceutical tariffs, the country could get caught in the crossfire as the US attempts to reduce its reliance on drug manufacturing in China and India. Canadian generic drug exports account for less than 5% of all generic drugs sold in the US. But Keon warned that without access to that market, some firms may find it impractical to continue Canadian operations. A research letter published in JAMA estimated that a 25% tariff on Canadian pharmaceutical exports would add $750 million in costs to the US drug system annually. The proposed tariffs could affect A wide range of medications, from antibiotics to mental health treatments, said Mina Tadris, PharmD PhD lead author and assistant professor at the Leslie Dan Faculty of Pharmacy, University of Toronto, Straining. This supply chain could trigger drug shortages and jeopardize patient care. That analysis was conducted under a 25% tariff scenario. The new order's headline rate is 100%. The pharmaceutical tariff announcement also arrived alongside a separate update to metal tariffs. Trump's April 2 order revised how the 50% tariffs on steel, aluminum, and copper are calculated, shifting the basis of calculation to the full customs value that U.S. customers actually pay rather than the declared production cost of foreign exporters. Administration officials stated that foreign suppliers had been gaming the calculation system to reduce tariff payments. Canada is one of the largest suppliers of steel and aluminum to the United States, meaning the recalculated tariff base directly affects Canadian metal exporters. In addition to pharmaceutical producers, the pharmaceutical industry did not stay quiet. It reacted immediately. And with clear concern, Stephen J. Ubiel, CEO of the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, warned that tariffs on cutting-edge medicines could backfire badly. According to him, imposing these taxes would not only increase costs for patients, but also put billions of dollars in U.S. investment at risk. His message was direct. The global pharmaceutical supply chain is not built overnight, and disrupting it comes with consequences. He also highlighted something often ignored in political narratives. A large portion of imported medicines does not come from rivals, it comes from trusted allies. Countries like Canada play a critical role in supplying high-quality pharmaceuticals to the United States. These are not unstable or risky supply chains. They are deeply integrated partnerships built over decades. And now those partnerships are being tested. For Canadian pharmaceutical companies, this is not theoretical anymore. The policy includes a 120 to 180 day window before full tariffs are enforced. And that window is now ticking. Companies are being forced to make rapid decisions, whether to shift supply chains, renegotiate pricing, or absorb potential losses. The uncertainty alone is enough to disrupt long-term planning, especially in an industry where production timelines and regulatory approvals already take years. There's one temporary shield, but it is limited. Companies that secured most favored nation pricing agreements with the Trump administration are protected until January. 2029, so far, 13 companies have signed these deals, with a reported total of 17 agreements in place as of early April. But here's the catch. The details remain undisclosed. No one knows which companies are covered or which drugs are included. That lack of transparency creates a two-tier system. Some firms are protected, while others are exposed, and the market does not fully know who stands where. Meanwhile, the scale of what is at stake for Canada is massive. Last year alone, Canada exported approximately $6.75 billion worth of pharmaceuticals to the United States. That is not a small trade flow. It is a critical artery in North American healthcare supply. Even more significant, Canada is the sole supplier for at least 28 medications that currently have no alternative sources within the US market. That means any disruption does not just affect trade, it directly impacts availability. And the domestic impact inside Canada could be just as severe. The pharmaceutical sector supports around 35,000 manufacturing jobs nationwide. In provinces like Manitoba, it is not just another industry. It is a core economic pillar, accounting for roughly 7% of the province's GDP. Factories, research facilities, supply chains, all of it is tied to stable access to the US market. Now, all of that sits directly in the path of an escalating policy timeline. What starts as tariffs on patented drugs could expand into broader trade friction, especially with additional pressure already building around metals like steel, aluminum. The concern is not just about one policy, it is about what comes next. Because once a trade relationship this integrated starts to fracture, the effects do not stay contained. They spread across industries, across borders, and across entire economies.